Okay, well, you mentioned the lovely people that cover the Coyotes. No one has done it better than our friend Craig Morgan. He joins us from PHNX. And Craig, you look great for how exhausted I imagine you should be, because not only have you been a prolific hockey reporter, for going on years now, you've also been a business reporter, and the shit has hit the fan in the last few days. So first of all, thank you for joining us. And second of all, I would like to start as vague as possible so you can go where you want with this. What happened?
What a week this has been. And you're right, guys. A lot of this felt like it came out of the blue. We had Elliot on the show yesterday, and he said there was some steam earlier in the year about this. I remember he and Jeff Merrick mentioning it on a show, this whole notion of coming back in expansion within a few years. That was all floated way back, like right after the All-Star break, I think. And then it died down for a bit. And then it just, like right after this land auction got posted publicly, and everybody thought, okay, the date's here. This is the date to focus on. Bam, within a couple days, suddenly everything was off and the Coyotes were moving to Salt Lake City. So it was it was bizarre. None of us expected it. Honestly, I had spoken to the team. Obviously, I don't rely completely on team sources. I got the understanding from Gary Bettman himself that they were going to allow Alex Morello to go to auction and see if he could get this done. So I know you want to talk about what changed. I have a lot of theories. Nobody's saying fully, but I can't help also wondering if the constant rhetoric from the NHLPA and the players played a role in this as well. I had someone tell me, like, right after Tempe failed, it was time to move out of Mullet Arena, but that's not the impression that I got one day after the Tempe vote failed. So you have to start examining some of the factors that maybe pushed it to this point. Another one of those would be, was it really a 3-year construction timeline, or was it going to take 4 or 5 or 6? Who knows with construction timelines? I think with all that uncertainty and Alex Morello's track record, there was a lot of concern that they might be stuck at Mullet Arena for much longer than they were saying. That combination of things probably doomed them.
Is it crazy to think like this is going to be a kind of a tough situation for Salt Lake City right now too? Because we're talking about how quickly this has happened. Like Salt Lake City's arena that they'd be moving into isn't built for hockey. It needs major renovations to kind of fix some of those sight lines. And you're talking about a team that has to, if they plan on rebranding, if they plan on not just going with the Coyotes and the current uniforms that they have, they've got like a couple months to do some work before starting a new season.
Yeah, it's going to be a major challenge. There are a whole lot of things on the business side that I wonder about them being able to get done. But here's the other thing. You don't know what talks were occurring behind the scenes with Ryan Smith, so that maybe he was prepped for some of this stuff. But the arena itself, yeah, you're right. It's going to take major work. And even then, as the Athletic story said yesterday, Ian Mendez wrote this, it seats 11,000 comfortably for hockey. So it's not a great situation, guys. Let's get that on the table as well. Everybody's painting these glowing pictures of Salt Lake City, and I do think they're really excited about Ryan Smith as a potential owner for this franchise. Stable ownership really matters in this league. But as far as the facility, it is so far from ideal. It's crazy. That place is older than Footprint Center downtown Phoenix, and it is. I've been there. I covered the NBA for 10 years, and I've been in that arena. It is not a great venue. It's not like they're stepping into a really good situation, and it's going to be another 10 years before they get an actual new arena.
I know that the NHL could say you had time and years to figure this out, but given how close they seemed to at least the starting point, getting to that June 27th, like whether it's Morello or the team, do they at all feel like cheated? Is obvious. They should feel cheated, but like, do they feel kind of like shortchanged that they were doing the work and they were doing what they were supposed to do for this, and then at what seems like the last second, just as it was all about to get started, it gets taken away from them?
I'd love to be able to tell you that, but the ownership group is not speaking on the record. They haven't even addressed their own staff. So it's hard to know what they're thinking or if they knew this was coming all along. It does surprise me that the league didn't allow them to get to that June 27th date to see what would happen. And even in the Q&A that I did with Javier Gutierrez, the CEO and president, he said, we hope to have shovels in the ground second quarter 2025. So when you knew you were going to be at Mullet Arena for honestly for 4 seasons anyway, and they've only been there 2. Why would you not want to wait to see if they actually did get shovels in the ground in the second quarter of 2025 and then say, okay, well, you got all kinds of issues. Now we're pulling the plug. Why wouldn't you want to see that through? That part is unclear to me at this point.
Especially because the NHL seems very intent on having at least 33 organizations. Like if you're saying, in 5 years, the Coyotes can have their team back or whatever, if they have all their ducks in a row, you would think that, like, given the situation currently, you'd say, hey, Ryan Smith, you either get the Coyotes or you get an expansion franchise in 2025, 2026. And we're going to wait to see what path we're going down based off of the result of this land auction. And if it doesn't go the Coyotes' way, then you get them. If it does, then let's start the expansion process. Does that not make the most sense here?
That's what I thought all along, Pete. That literally, I was like, okay, look, he gets to the land auction and he loses it. Fine, just pull the plug at that point. Honestly, I thought they were going to pull the plug right after Tempe, and I was surprised when they didn't, but they were very clear that they were not pulling the plug on this market. So at that point, I thought, why wouldn't you let it get to auction and see how this plays out? And again, see if they can get shovels in the ground in 2025. That was the most logical progression of events for me. So I'm really curious to find out why that changed.
Do you think there was like a final straw event, a final straw thing that happened?
That'd be just pure speculation at this point. I haven't heard anything at this point. Maybe there was something else that tipped the scales. Maybe they were hearing from local officials that, look, this isn't going to be nearly as simple as they're making it out to be. There's no way this is a 3-year construction timeline. Do you really want to be at Mullet Arena for 6 years or 7 years? Then maybe that sort of thing. But again, I'm just speculating here. I don't have any basis for saying that at this point.
Yeah, the timeline is what confuses me the most about this, because I'd get if there was no plan and if they were saying, okay, you got to get to this point. They are at the point where they were going to do something and they were going to solve this. So if you're going to do this, do it, as you said, after the Tempe fell through. But to do it now, I think is just, it sucks for the fans, obviously. Do the players, want to play in Salt Lake City?
I got to be really careful with this, but the prevailing sentiment is no. The players don't want to play there and the families don't want to play there. And I'm not going to name anybody, but yeah, I've heard from a few.
Yeah,
what were their names?
Sorry. That's awesome. It does seem like there's quite a bit of smoke there. Also, it's very funny that, like, with the Coyotes moving, people have been talking about the Coyotes moving for like 10 to 15 years. And it is very funny that now we're like, hey, this seems like it came out of nowhere, huh? There's a lot of irony in that.
But here's the thing, though. Like, wait 5 months when, like, in 5 months, they probably won't have a plan. Like, something will have gone wrong. The land auction will have not gone wrong. Like, this to me seems so, and maybe Sean has just gotten to me and I'm a Coyotes Bobo. Doesn't their current plan, or I guess their yesterday's plan, seem viable? You get the arena, you get the land, you get the arena. Just with how hockey has gotten bigger in Arizona, I'd rather have it there than Salt Lake City, but maybe I'm being biased.
No, I think you're right. I mean, look at the size of the market alone, right? Come on. It's obviously a better market than Salt Lake City if you have the right pieces in place. But in terms of whether this was a good plan, a viable plan, I don't know. But you could have sold this so easily to this market, to this fan base, if you waited till the land auction and things went sideways, right? At that point, what fan is going to say, okay, give us another shot? Like, seriously? We've been doing this for 15 years. Everybody was under the understanding that this was the last chance. And then we're going to pull the rug out from under people 2 months or maybe even 1 month before it goes to auction. That's curious to me.
Given like the timeline that we're talking about, 15 years where we've been going through this over and over and over again, there is a lot of history as to the Coyotes' failures. If you're looking at like the legacy of the Coyotes, we're a big fingerprints podcast. Who would you point your finger at or say had their fingerprints all over the Coyotes' failure in Arizona?
Well, you got to look at the ownership groups. It's very simple. They haven't had a stable ownership group. They haven't had good ownership groups. And you can trace this all the way back to Steve Ellman's decision to move the team west to Glendale in 2003. Richard Burke, who was co-owner at the time, and was the guy that brought them here from Winnipeg, didn't want to do it. And he told them, I have him on the record, and I know he said this, it won't work in Glendale. Don't go out there. But Steve Ellman wanted the real estate deal. He wanted Westgate. He wasn't so concerned with the hockey team. So they went west. It was an utter disaster. They lost money, hand over fist. Eventually, then you know all the story after that. Jerry Moyes, he left Jerry Moyes holding the bag. He tries to put it in bankruptcy and move it to Hamilton with Jim Balsillie. The league stepped in, took over, and then it's just been a series of missteps by ownership groups, but also hamstrung by the fact that they're in Glendale and it's really hard to get a new arena built. They were in the wrong location. They couldn't get a new arena built, but so many ownership groups made mistakes along the way. And this is clearly one of them. I mean, you can look at the Katie Strang article that is well known at this point. You can look at the split with Glendale where they had to move out of Gila River Arena. You can look at the failed Tempe vote or having to play at Mullet Arena. There are a bunch of examples of mistakes that this ownership group has made, but they're not alone. Like you said, it is a long history of missteps.
So do you think that there should be reason for fans to buy into a future of the Coyotes in Arizona under Alex Morello?
No, and I don't think fans will support it. I wonder how serious the league is about that. I don't know if they truly believe that he's going to be the guy. They may think there's no way he's ever getting this done anyway. We'll see if it even goes to auction now, because I don't know what the Arizona State Land Department is thinking without, a team to play in that arena that they were going to build. The league may be just playing the odds here, and when it comes time to come back to Arizona, maybe you can find another group. But I do not think that the fan base will support the Morello ownership group as the expansion ownership group of the next concoction or version of the Coyotes, because of all that's happened right now. We were seeing it all over social media. We were hearing it at our Discord. People were texting and DMing. There is a lot of anger right now. So if the NHL thinks it can sell Coyotes fans on that idea, man, they better take the temperature. And honestly, even the idea, we'll be back in a few years. If the NHL thinks that's going to ease the pain, they're so wrong. Like, it almost would be better if they waited longer so that this could all pass, because there is so much anger. I'm not sure how much support there's going to be for an expansion franchise. You mentioned it, and Sean said it earlier. All the crap that they've been through, you finally get this rebuild going the right way. You have a hockey operations department that actually knows what it's doing and has the resources to execute it. You're 3 years into the process. You're starting to see some of the promise with Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, Josh Doan. And then you rip it out and say, hey, we'll be back in 5 years. And by the way, don't expect to win anytime before the mid-2030s. Wow. Sign me up, guys.
It also felt like an extra kick in the nuts. Like last night, Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther had amazing nights. What a kick in the fucking nuts when a team that absolutely does not need it right now.
Yeah, I mean, you just answered the question I was going to ask, which was your confidence level that they're back and that actually something happens there. It would just have to be with totally new faces and a totally new, honestly, just bring in some bozos who don't even know what they're doing versus the guy who's failed you.
Yeah, and you still don't have an arena, by the way, so you need to get that settled out. But this talk that they'll be back in 5 years, I guess the league could make that promise. What's the history of the expansion process? Who gets a team back that fast? Who has ever gotten a team back that fast? I know this is an attractive market. I get it. It's not Winnipeg, but are they really going to come back in 3 to 5 years? I have a hard time believing the process will be that.
The only reason that I would buy into that is Gary Bettman's love affair with Arizona and trying to make sure there is a team there that works. Just from a personal standpoint, you've been as tied to this team as anybody that I know. Is there any sense of relief that finally it's fucking over and we can be done with it? Or is it a heartbreak? Is it kind of, where do you stand right now?
I'm going to tag something to that. I said at the beginning that he's had to be a sports reporter. He's had to be a business reporter. This happens a lot with teams when their teams get caught cheating or anything goes to court or whatever. It's also personal for you because you're reporting on, not to be dark, you're reporting on your livelihood as well.
Yeah. I've also been a government reporter, by the way. I'm on a first name basis with 3 city councils. It's the entire cocktail, Pete. It's all of that. Yeah, it's tough, right? it's a stupid little dream, but I wanted to cover the NHL from a very young age. I love my job. So seeing that die is tough. Seeing, the imminent death of our show, PHNX Coyotes, sucks. But we went and grabbed a beer last night, the three of us, along with Shane Diefenbach, and we were talking about that other fact that you were mentioning. Yeah, there's a little bit of relief. It's exhausting covering this franchise. It is exhausting. There's never any time off. Once you get to the summer, it's known around here as arena season. So there are so many rumors. There's so many people taking shots at the Coyotes. There's a lot of bad information that gets passed about the Coyotes, but also, a lot of really good reporting that does not paint this franchise in a good light. So to finally be rid of it, yeah, I will admit there's a little bit of relief at being rid of this and getting this stress out of my life.
We all